Hi, it's Dan Bucatinsky, and I'm really happy to be able to read a book today for all of you guys. It's a book that I read to my kids a lot when we first had them. It's called And Tango Makes Three, and it's based on a real life event. It really happened in the New York Central Park Zoo. When I was a kid, I loved having books read to me. My parents are from Argentina. They were immigrants, so they always spoke with an accent. So for years and years and years, I always thought that all these books, when I heard them, they would unlock my imagination, but I always heard them with an accent. And then years later, when I was reading to my kids, I would sometimes remember my parents reading to me with their accent. But I always loved hearing books out loud because it made the characters and made the story come alive. So I hope you enjoy And Tango Makes Three. It's a book by Justin Richardson and Peter Parnell, and it's illustrated by Henry Cole. And it's the story of a family of penguins. Okay. And I'll try to hold up the pictures for you guys so you can see it because the illustrations are quite lovely. In the middle of New York City, there's a great big park called Central Park, and children love to play there. It has a toy boat pond where they can sail their boats. It has a carousel to ride on in the summer and an ice rink to skate on in the winter. Best of all, it has its very own zoo. Every day, families of all kinds go to visit the animals that live there. And when I lived in New York City, I often visited the Central Park Zoo. And I remember this very famous entryway to the zoo and this famous clock where every hour these animals would spin around like a cuckoo clock. But children and their parents aren't the only families at the zoo. The animals make families of their own. There are red panda bear families with mothers and fathers and furry red panda bear cubs. There are monkey dads and monkey moms raising noisy monkey babies. There are toad families and toucan families and cotton top tamarin families too. And in the penguin house, there are penguin families. Every year at the very same time, the girl penguins start noticing the boy penguins, and the boy penguins start noticing the girls. When the right girl and the right boy find each other, they become a couple. Two penguins in the penguin house were a little bit different. One was named Roy and the other was named Silo. Roy and Silo were both boys. They did everything together. They bowed to each other. They walked together. They sang to each other. And they swam together. Wherever Roy went, Silo went too. They didn't spend much time with the girl penguins, and the girl penguins didn't spend much time with them. Instead, Roy and Silo wound their necks around each other. Their keeper, Mr. Gramsay, noticed the two penguins and thought to himself, they must be in love. Roy and Silo watched how the other penguins made a home, so they built a nest of stones for themselves. Every night, Roy and Silo slept together, just like the other penguin couples. And every morning, Roy and Silo woke up together. But one day, Roy and Silo saw that the other couples could do something that they could not. The mama penguin would lay an egg. She and the papa penguin would take turns keeping the egg warm, and finally, it would hatch, and there would be a baby penguin. Roy and Silo had no egg to sit on and keep warm. They had no baby chick to feed and cuddle and love. Their nest was nice, but it was a little empty. One day, Roy found something that looked like what the other penguins were hatching, and he brought it to their nest. It was only a rock. But Silo carefully sat on it. And he sat and sat and sat. When Silo got sleepy, he slept. And when Silo was done sleeping and sitting, he swam and Roy sat. Day after day, Silo and Roy sat on that rock. But nothing happened. Then Mr. Gramsay had an idea. He found an egg that needed to be cared for, and he brought it to Roy and Silo's nest. Roy and Silo knew just what to do. They moved the egg to the center of their nest. Every day they turned it, so each side stayed warm. Some days Roy sat while Silo went for food. Other days it was Silo's turn to take care of their egg. They sat in the morning and they sat at night. They sat through lunchtime and swim time and supper. They sat at the beginning of the month and they sat at the end of the month. And they sat and sat all the days in between. Until one day they heard a sound coming from inside their egg. Beep, 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 it said. Roy and Silo called back. Squawk, squawk, beep, beep, answered the egg. And slowly but surely, crack, 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 suddenly a tiny hole appeared in the egg shell, and then crack! Out came their very own baby. She had fuzzy white feathers and a funny black beak. Now Roy and Silo were fathers. We'll call her Tango, Mr. Gramsay decided, because it takes two to make a tango. Roy and Silo taught Tango how to sing for them when she was hungry. They fed her food from their beaks and they snuggled her in their nest at night. Tango was the very first penguin in the zoo to have two daddies. Soon Tango grew strong enough to leave the nest, and Roy and Silo took her for a swim, just like all the other penguin families. And all the children who came to the zoo could see Tango and her two fathers playing in the penguin house with the other penguins. Hooray, Roy! Hooray, Silo! Welcome, Tango, they cheered. At night, the three penguins returned to their nest. And there they snuggled together, and like all the other penguins in the penguin house and all the other animals in the zoo and all the families in the big city around them, they went to sleep. And you know, this book really had a lot of meaning to us because my husband and I also didn't have any children, and we adopted a little baby girl who's now 15 years old, but we became dads because, and we adopted her just the way Silo and Roy were able to adopt that little egg and raise that daughter as their own. I hope you enjoyed And Tango Makes Three. Happy Pride, everyone.